Welcoming to the show, Westchester County District Attorney, Mimi Rocah. As I was telling everyone, I shared the story of the shooting that we had in Mount Vernon, and you texted me back and said I can definitely come on and talk about gun violence. So we welcome you to come on anytime you want to come on. We know I've already prepped my audience. There's probably questions they want to ask you that you cannot answer about other things. That's not going to stop them from asking you, but I did prep them. and Angela Ferris is telling me that you did a gun buyback program at Bethesda Baptist Church on Lincoln Avenue in New Rochelle. I think we need more of those, and I'm glad to hear I missed that. I'm glad to hear that you were involved in that. How long ago was that?
That was just about a week ago.
Okay.
And, yeah. And that was done in partnership with the Attorney General's office. They kind of organized that one, and we are obviously definitely looking to do more, including one in Mount Vernon.
Yes, we definitely need our leaders to do more of this, not just you. And I'm putting a call out to our community leaders, our elected officials. We need to do way more of these, because right now, as I said in my one of the things I talked about, people are telling me it is easier for people to get a gun than a job right now on the streets, especially in the streets of Mount Vernon, but they saying in Westchester. That's not a good statistic. That's not something to be proud of. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, AJ, first of all, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here with you guys, and it's been too long, so I'm looking forward to being on more, because, I really do want to be accessible. I don't have all the answers for how to fix this, but I'm trying, and I really welcome community input and suggestions and questions, even if I can't answer all of them, but I'll try. I really try to be transparent where I'm allowed to be. I'm not obviously talking about ongoing investigations. And I do just want to start out by saying, my heart breaks for this young woman and her family. I think that, part of what motivated me to run for Westchester DA was my involvement in the horrible killing of Shimoya McKenzie.
Yes.
In 2016. I was a federal prosecutor then. I literally last week was at Dave Hardy's sentencing. I wanted to be there. My office, my current office, was very much involved. They actually were the ones that but back then it wasn't me. The Westchester DA's office had arrested Dave Hardy. People from my office, current office, had prosecuted him, and then they started working with the feds, where I was then, and were able to build a bigger case against a whole bunch of people, and I've really gotten close with Nadine McKenzie, Shimoya's mom, and have tried to do a lot in Shimoya's honor. So to go to that sentencing, which was a heart-wrenching, long time, somewhat of closure, to then have this happen this weekend, there's no words for it. And, I have a great team at the DA's office. It's not just me. I mean, it's my Deputy Chief Inspector, Wade Hardy, who is tirelessly working to try to find ways to better serve our communities, and in particular, communities of color. Lila Curtin, and many other people. And it's really a team effort. And as we speak, our prosecutors are working round the clock with Mount Vernon PD and FBI on trying to solve the current shooting. I can't say any more about it than that, but I want people to know, that literally they have been working round the clocks, as they should, since this happened. And there's nothing more important right now, other than obviously, hoping beyond hope for an outcome here, that we find the people who did it.
Now you said that you were at the sentencing. I'm just getting back to town. Could you share what he was sentenced to, or?
Yeah, no, that's public. I mean, he was sentenced by a federal judge. It was a federal case eventually became a federal case. And the judge sentenced him to, it works out to 31 years approximately. It's obviously a long sentence. The government was asking, the prosecutors were asking for more than that. The defense was asking for less than that. The judge came out. It was a below guideline sentence. The federal system, there's sort of a guideline range, and the judge went below that. But it was very. There was a lot of talk there about some of the same issues we're talking about now. Like, how did Dave Hardy, start out playing basketball and being a kid on the basketball team to ending up being, someone who shot a gun so recklessly in broad daylight in Mount Vernon that Shamoya was murdered. And I think that's kind of what it all comes back to, is how do we stop that cycle from happening?
We had a panel, I forgot, it was after a shooting that we had on 7th Avenue in broad daylight. A young man, high school age, was visiting his friend and got killed and died out on the doorstep. The mother of the friend opens the door to see her son's friend dying on the doorstep. And we had Henry Terry and Snug had a call to action, and Patty Combs and a bunch of people put together a forum at Mount Calvary in Mount Vernon, and they let some of the young people speak. And some of the adults was telling young people, if you see something, say something. And the young people was like, yo, if we could be frank, y'all can't do nothing with them. Y'all are the ones that are telling us to stay away from these type of people. Like, we're scared of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not going to say anything. We're scared of them. We're trying to stay away from them. And another person pulled me to the side. He didn't say this. And he admitted that he had a gun. And he said he doesn't want to have a gun, but everyone else has one. And he doesn't want to get caught without one. And this is a 16-year-old. Yeah. And I was like, you can't help but be moved. Like the kid, from everything I can tell, is a good kid. And he doesn't want to carry a gun, but because he walks home and he got to walk through these certain blocks where everybody's getting killed, he doesn't want to be the only one without one. And that's and we have to deal with we have to deal with the problems that cause some of this stuff. Like, there are things that lead up to this. No programs and lack of things to do and no trade. People don't come out of high school college ready, but they're not taught trades so they can get a career. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
we do some of these things. There's a lot of things we need to do that can solve these problems. But I want to applaud you for a gun buyback program. I cannot speak intelligently and say your predecessor did not do that, but I'm not hearing district attorneys talk about gun buyback programs. Usually it's about locking people up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We need to do more of them, and we've already started talking about, that one was done with the Attorney General's office. We're trying to figure out if we can do one on our own using asset forfeiture money that we would do in Mount Vernon. And also, I think I'm trying to approach this from my office, and obviously it's not just the DA's office that needs to work on this. This has got to be a team approach of all the stakeholders. But I try to use, what the resources of my office in two ways. One is on the law enforcement side, which is prosecuting the most violent offenders. There's all sorts of fancy names for it. Precision prosecution is one of them. But it basically is common sense. We don't want over policing, over prosecution in general. That leads to real racial disparities. What we want is to, which we're trying to eliminate in many ways, and we're working on that, but we want to prosecute vigorously the most violent cases. And so we put together an initiative of Mount Vernon Police, New Rochelle Police, Yonkers Police, FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the federal prosecutors, and my office. And we announced that it was over the summer. And we did that actually. One thing I want to say about numbers, one shooting, one murder is too much. So I don't want this to be taken the wrong way. But I do want to say that sometimes, you know, I think we hear the headlines and we hear even about one, and it just feels, wow, you know, it's out of control. It's bad, and we got to get the numbers down even more. But actually, in Westchester as a whole, and including in Mount Vernon, the numbers we have not seen the spike in shootings that other parts of our state have seen. I mean, in Rochester, in North Albany, you know, and in the city, the shootings are up much more dramatically. So again, I'm not trying to minimize what we're dealing with, but I think it helps people, and that's why I'm trying to turn to a more statistic-based approach to things, because I want to work off where are the shootings and who is it, you know, because that's what we got to target. And so this initiative we put together is really focused on making sure that law enforcement is better at sharing information across borders, and by that I mean across towns and cities. Our police, you know, in Westchester are doing an excellent job really trying to deal with the violence that is out there, and this promotes even better cooperation across the police departments, across the prosecutors, state and local and federal law enforcement, better information sharing. And again, I can't get into it here, but we're already making a lot more progress than we would have without that initiative in terms of identifying people that need to be pursued. So that's the sort of one of the law enforcement parts of it, but we also need to do the prevention part of it. And, you know, that's really where we partner with community-based programs that we not only don't initiate, but shouldn't, because nobody wants to come to a community-based program that the DA's office is working on, right? Like, they don't look to go walk in a room where there's prosecutors, but we want to offer our support. And we want to help develop them as much as possible. And so we've already done some of that, but we are constantly looking for new ways to do that. And I mean, when I tell you, you know, not just this weekend, but including this weekend, you know, there've been a lot of discussions amongst us of, okay, what else can we do? Something I talked about during the campaign was something that in Oakland, California, where they took this very holistic, multidisciplinary approach to gun violence. They had a even worse gun violence program, and they were able to get it down in a number of years quite dramatically, because they took this approach of, you know, the prosecutors, the police, the mayors, the mental health, the social services, probation, and coming together. And so that's something that, you know, we've kind of been doing, and I would love to do even more affirmatively and dramatically, and bring all those parties together to say, all right, what's everyone already doing? Because it's got to be done in every different area. Right. And what else can we do? And how can we support each other? And making the contacts of the people who can just pick up the phone and call each other, you know, one-on-one, because I you know, cut through the bureaucracy, because that's what we need to do. We're also working to partner a lot more with schools. Again, not just in Mount Vernon, we've been doing it across the county, but I would like to do it more in Mount Vernon as well. We've offered what's called red flag or ERPO training to all the school superintendents. We just did that last week. There were superintendents were invited from across the county. You know, that's not exactly the issue we're talking about here with street violence, but it contributes to it, right? Because it's about making sure that even someone who has a gun, that it doesn't get used in ways, obviously, that could harm someone, and that the warning signs are seen, and that people in authority, whether it be a school or police, can intervene before something happens. We're really trying to decrease suicides among young people, which is just a problem everywhere. Safe storage of guns. So we're trying to partner much more with schools and use them as a network too, to young people. I know that doesn't get to everyone, but it should help.
I like the way that sounds, and I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but I also like to see if you can incorporate, you know, some of the credible messengers that are out there in the community, that do the work, that they go when they have these shootings, they're the ones that go out there. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they have their boots on the ground in those communities. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have huge respect for SNUG and Henry Terry and the work that they do. They want to keep, as they should, distant from us, from law enforcement, because they are the credible messengers. So in a lot of ways, I think the DA's office, other than obviously doing the prosecutions we need to do, we can support more behind the scenes, helping with organizing, bringing resources together. I don't think anyone thinks that we should be the ones out there trying to talk to people in violence prevention. I get that. We're definitely not the credible messengers there. We are working on things like expanding diversion programs, right? So, when we talk about the young man that you spoke about with the gun, who, I'll assume for purposes of this discussion, he's carrying around, but he hasn't used it, at least in a violent way yet. We don't want people who commit non-violent, low-level offenses to get thrown into the system, at least initially, right? Like, everybody should get a second chance. And, once you're in the criminal justice system, in a courtroom with a criminal record, it kind of spirals from there. And so we're really looking to expand diversion programs. And we're going to be actually rolling something out this week that I'm really excited about in that respect. So we can come back and talk about that. It'll start as a pilot program, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be expanded across the county. We're working on partnering more in Mount Vernon. We did with the Mount Vernon Emerging Adult Justice part. Again, just trying to recognize that young people who carry guns or commit crimes, especially, nonviolent offenses, it's better to not treat them the way we frankly treated them historically. We got to get them out of the system. That's the best chance of preventing them from becoming the next Dave Hardy, Let me ask you a question, and I don't know if you can answer, but it is one of the two questions that I have from the audience. I understand as far as bail reform, you don't make the laws, you enforce the laws. I believe that, bail reform was necessary, but I believe that the reform may need to be reformed because there have been people slipping through the cracks and coming right back out on the street. And, I don't know if you can speak to that at all or speak. Yeah, no, absolutely. I can speak to that in this way, that since I took office, 9 months ago, it is something that, it's kind of a joke amongst my people in my office. I'm constantly asking for numbers. Like, what are the numbers? Who's getting back out? Are the people committing crimes people who otherwise, back before bail reform wouldn't have been, out without bail, right? So really trying to drill down on, again, not just kind of what it feels like, but what's actually happening, and really talking to our partners in law enforcement who, are the ones on the ground seeing it every day, and our people out in our local courts, like in Mount Vernon, we have great prosecutors out there. I constantly am asking them what they're seeing in terms of how bail reform is playing out, because my role, what I can do is take that information, come up with suggestions for not just, hey, we think it needs to be fixed, but here's what specifically, I want to be as specific as possible, right? If you just say we got to fix bail reform, the people who drafted it and it was a huge accomplishment in many ways and something absolutely needed, but they're going to say like, well, what, right? You can't just throw it out there. You got to be as specific and constructive as possible. So that's what I have been working on, coming up with, and have been reaching out to the legislators to try and talk to them about that and see, while they're not in session, what appetite there is for making some small precision kind of changes in the bail reform that I think could go a long way to helping keep us safe. I think that's very important, because I'm often preaching on this show. We have to be careful and specific what we ask for. Yeah. At 9/11, we asked for the government to do whatever they can, and we got the Patriot Act 1 and 2. You know what I'm saying? And people in the crack era, we asked for the government to do something, and we got,
the laws that led to the mass incarceration of Black people. We asked for bail reform, but we didn't say what. And they did give us bail reform, and now there might need to be a reform of it. The second question, Sandy Barnaby, the Anti-Racism Alliance, she mentions that Colorado, the state of Colorado, ended qualified immunity for police in their state. Can we learn from them and be the second state to do that in this nation? What can you say about the need to end this mechanism of injustice?
So, look, I am going to not answer that one a little bit for this reason. I enforce the criminal laws, and qualified immunity really has to do with civil liability, not criminal liability.
As you can see, I live on that side of town where the bikes come by every night.
Ah, that's what that is. I thought it was like some horn that someone didn't like my answer. Or
no.
Like, hey, what do you mean you're not going to answer?
No, I have my windows open too, so it's like, 8, 9, 10 in a row come down my block. So,
I hear it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer it this way about what is within my purview and what I've been doing, again, over the past 9 months. I personally, with a whole team of prosecutors, line prosecutors, career prosecutors, law enforcement people in my office, former, police officers themselves, review every excessive force case that comes into our office, and we review it in detail. I mean, we spend hours and hours doing this. I'm not exaggerating. And that's something that's very important to me, and we take it really seriously. We understand, the issues that law enforcement face out there every day, but we also don't want to see any abuse of that authority. And I know that historically, and I'm talking about the country as a whole now, it just hasn't been scrutinized in the way that it should, right? It was, and so I'm trying to change that. It's not a secret that we've charged at least one police officer since I've been there. Obviously not going to talk about the case, but there's always people who will look at that and have criticism for it.
Yeah, you caught a lot of flack for that, and
yeah,
and I called for the community to come out and support you because we haven't had a DA do that in some time. So.
And so look, that's where, and I don't like charging police officers. I mean, I have huge respect for them. I work with them every day, and most of the cases we review, we don't end up bringing charges because there is a justified use of force. But I'm going to scrutinize it really carefully, and we're not going to say that we're not going to charge something just because it's a police officer and they were in a difficult situation. So that's the area more in my purview, is sort of what can we do that's different in terms of holding police officers accountable who do break the law, in our view, as opposed to qualified immunity.
I want to also leading to, it's more of a compliment and a comment. I wanted to applaud you for the opening of the Kenneth Chamberlain Sr. and the Danroy DJ Henry cases. I know that you probably can't speak specifically, but this is my first conversation I'm having with you since you opened them, and we just had the movie come out. What can you speak on that made you even want to take another look at it? Because it definitely wasn't popular among your predecessors, because I've heard you caught some flack for that. So what made you at least want to even go back and take a look into them?
So, and again, I want to be, always really careful, because there literally are ethical guidelines about what I'm allowed to talk about and not talk about with pending cases. I will say this, that which I said at the time, that first of all, I felt really lucky to have someone outside of my office, outside of really any law enforcement in Westchester, someone very independent who's brilliant, to help us, take a really objective review of everything that transpired. And by everything, I mean, it's not just about looking at the police. I want to also look at, what our office did right and did wrong. We can always learn from that. So there's a lot of different layers to this. And we brought on former federal judge John Gleason, who's donating his time, pro bono. He's a partner in a law firm, has a whole, a team of associates to help. And so, that just gives us additional resources and kind of an even more objective look, I think, at everything. And we just, I know most of all people want transparency and answers. And, I don't think I'll necessarily ever be able to do that in the way that sort of in my heart I'd like to, but I want to provide that as much as possible for everyone.
I just wanted to let you know, we're going to get to our next guest, so I'm going to say goodbye in a second. I'm going to put him on the screen so y'all can at least say hello to each other.
Good. Great.
Welcome, Congressman Mondaire Jones. I'm finishing up with District Attorney, Westchester District Attorney Mimi Rocah. I don't know if y'all have met, so I want to put him on the screen to say hi at least,
Who's this guy?
No, Mimi is a dear friend and just an incredible inspiration, and we are so blessed to have her in Westchester. So it's really an honor just to be on the same platform right now with her.
Well, we could have a big love fest here because I could say all the same things about you. It's been amazing watching you out there, and I follow, and I always feel a little weird saying this because who am I to say it? But I'm so proud of you, and you're such a fighter, and it's just wonderful. But you do it with just the right way. So it's great. I don't want to take up your time because I know
before you leave though, I did want to tell you, I don't know if you know, so I got a call from Pace University journalism class, which I will be speaking to.
Oh.
They because of this, they read the story about you reopening the case. This whole semester is on the reopening of those two cases.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and I got them in touch with Kenneth, who I think he spoke to them. I came back from Georgia Thursday. I think he was on Thursday. And Dan Roy Henry Sr. Will be on soon. And then I will be on after that, talking to the class.
Right. Well, I'm glad they're gonna hear from you because you're very. I mean, I've told you this before privately, but you're very talented, AJ. So.
Well, thank you very much.
I've seen your writing, and it's great. So that's great. The students not only will hear about that, but we'll hear from you.
And is there anything I didn't ask you? Last words? Anything that you want to get out before you go?
Look, I would say what we were talking about at the beginning. I know that one shooting, one murder is too many. I think we want to keep perspective on the numbers and not let it feel worse than it is in terms of how much of an overall problem it's becoming. But we got to do more, all of us, and that includes me. We're doing a lot and we're trying, but there's more we can do. And I think part of it is just finding better, more formal ways to collaborate and bring all the stakeholders together to work at this. Because it isn't, law enforcement can't do it alone, social services can't do it alone, government can't do it alone. It's got to be everyone together. That's the only way to really work on this problem. Last comment, Angela Farris from New Rochelle said, can some programs begin at the academic level when young people are in school about gun crime prevention? It seems somewhat too late to reach them when they're out and they're young adults. So can we have more programs that start at the academic level? So I just want to throw that out there. As and it's brainstorming. The answer is yes, and we're already doing some of that. We need to do more, and that's why I mentioned partnering even more with the schools and the superintendents and getting programs, getting people in the schools. I thank you for your time. We have to do this more often. Of course, half an hour is never enough time because everybody want to ask you something. And I had more, but I'm happy to come back, especially if Congressman Jones is on. Yeah, we'll make that happen because even if he's not. It's his first time back since he's been elected too. So. All right. So you guys got to get to it. Yes. Thank you very much. All right, bye. I will be. Take care, everyone. Yes.